So can you tell me about your journey? Because you were solidly in the corporate space and in corporate media. So tell me about that transition and how you got here.
Well, first of all, most people that are accomplished go through the Underground Railroad called BET.
Yes, yes.
So it was good. It was a good journey. First of all, thank you for having me. I'm excited about this conversation because we know how important our voices are. So I grew up in Oakland, California. I got to give the town a little shout out because you can't be revolutionary and not come from the town. So came from Oakland, California, made my way into the cable business when it was kind of flourishing. We're going to talk about where it is today and how our children and the younger folk are looking at content differently. But what an amazing place to be in, what an amazing industry to be in, because we know that it shapes people's narratives. We know that it is an opportunity for us to tell our story, for people to build perceptions. The challenge is walking through the hallways that I came through, I never saw people like me, whether that's behind the camera. We wasn't even pushing the brooms.
Right.
I mean, we weren't, because the industry is so incestuous. They're going to give your C student cousin an opportunity before you give the most talented. And so as a Black woman coming up in the media business, I had to really scrap for a seat at the table. And then I understood when I got there, I better have a really damn good question. Or I better be really strategic or really smart, or understood that I earned a seat to be there and be really smart about how I navigated it. And we're going to talk about now how all that's changed and how I made a decision because I wasn't paid what I was valued, because my voice was big, because I had so much experience and I was strategic, to work for a network, then work for a digital, and then work for an agency to understand 360 that I can actually just make some money for myself.
Yeah.
And so now I sit here as the CEO of Expected Media, working with Black creators so that they can have a voice, have a place, and actually monetize their intellectual property, which is themselves, instead of giving it away for free on social media.
Yeah, which we do a lot. But I love how you talked about you ventured into cable when the industry was still flourishing, which I think your generation, Sydney, probably doesn't even remember. Because in the 80s, I remember we used to just have like 3 TV channels.
Of course.
And then when cable came about, it was a big deal.
Yeah.
But the cable providers had to find content to fill up, 24 hours of programming. So it has definitely been a change. So talk to me about your journey in media. How old are you, if you don't mind me asking?
I'm 32 years old.
You're 32, okay.
And so, I feel really honored to sit here with both of y'all because I feel like I have so much to learn. I have many questions for the two of you.
Well, I'm 32 too, so we're the same age.
I'm 42.
But I feel the knowledge emanating. Yeah. So I grew up, I guess comparatively to some of y'all on here, with an embarrassment of riches. I grew up reading my mom's Essence and Ebony.
Yes.
I grew up reading Rolling Stone and Double XL, which is a hip-hop magazine that I went on to work for a little bit. I read The Source. I came home and watched TRL and 106 in Park.
Wow.
That was my media and music diet growing up, and I saw a lot of versions of myself in those pages and on screen. Now, were those versions sometimes flattened or codified or manufactured in the vein of somebody who doesn't have my interests at heart? Sometimes, yes. But I never grew up thinking that there wasn't really a way for me to get in on the journalistic side. Dream Hampton wrote so many of the most pivotal music and culture articles that I ever read growing up. And it's so funny to see now that there's actually a documentary about her early days covering hip-hop from 1993 to 1995, and she's in that footage, and she's very much still trying to find her hip-hop feminist voice in that, and it's just such a beacon for someone like me who's also trying to push those narratives and push those cultural conversations forward, even in hip-hop now, 20, 30 years removed. But, I definitely grew up in the age of dial-up and AIM and appointment viewing, how we were talking about, how y'all were saying before. But now it's so much more transitioned. We're in the midst of what they call the attention economy. Mm-hmm. And so you can opt in and subscribe and like and leave your reviews, which you should definitely do on all the podcasts you listen to. That's where,
including this one. Thank you, guys.
Right? Speak on it. Because that's how you know, what the health of the show is going to be, the longevity.
Yeah.
Hitting that like button, opting in or choosing to opt out from something, that's going to speak a lot of volumes. And even now when we have social media apps like I mean, R.I.P. Vine, but Vine walked so TikTok could run in a lot of ways, and a lot of social circles and social conversations. But now you can be what we call a content creator, an influencer, and you can put your voice out there, and you can create an entire platform for yourself. It's not even like you need to walk in and like pay your dues at Viacom, or it's not like you need to be working in a mailroom at your favorite magazine to move your way up. You can put your point of view and your voice out there. I mean, with varying degrees of success, because now everybody got a voice, everybody got a camera phone, and a lot of people want to just be loud and right, you know, and a lot of times they're loud and wrong, but they're just loud, you know, so they get a lot of that attention. So I think in the midst of it, the barometer for success has changed so much. The barometer for cultural cachet and cultural impact has changed so much.
It's interesting hearing you talk about media, and a lot of your focus is social media, because when I first got in the business, there was no social media, there was no internet. There was not, when you said dial up, I'm like, I was
flip phones and pagers.
Right. But even before, there was not even flip phones. Like there was pagers, like in the 90s, beepers. You know, right, exactly. And there was a cutoff time, you know, like when you left the office, you weren't accessible. Working, my start was in news. And so my entire career, I speak about this often, I grew up wanting to be the Brown Murphy Brown. Do you know who Murphy Brown is? Okay. Because sometimes people, they have no idea who Murphy Brown is. But I remember seeing her, you know, this like soulful white woman who like loved Aretha Franklin and covered politics, and I really wanted to do that.
And who was pregnant on TV.
Who was
Remember that?
Right. For Dan Quayle, you know, to have a vice president talk about this fictitious character. It was a really big deal. And there was nobody who looked like me, you know. We had Oprah on screen, but when it finally came time to navigate those newsrooms where people decided, you know, what stories made sense to cover, there was nobody. Like it didn't exist. And like you really had to go to niche media, Michelle, which you know about. There wasn't a lot of coverage for us and our issues unless you were going to a Black outlet. And I have to say, shout out to Sheila Johnson. I read her book, and it made me proud to be part of the BET legacy. And I feel like when I was working at BET, nobody told us, you know, all we did was complain, you know, like, oh, we didn't get this, and, you know, we need more money for this. And we did all those things, but it's like looking back, it's like, man, we got to do some really magical things and be a part of this institution that was that held such credo in the Black community. Because when MTV came out, they did not show a lot of any Black artists, and so BET was kind of the answer to that. And when you say you come home and you'd watch TRL and 106 in Park. I came home to watch Yo MTV Raps. That was like my show. And music videos were such a big deal. And Teen Summit was a show that centered like teen issues. And so I just knew I wanted to be part of that. And I can't lie, it was a really lonely process, Michelle. When I got my start, my big start, I worked in radio first, but then I went to CNN. And I mean, just to look around and be so isolated, you know, not only isolated in what you look like, but isolated in your lived experience, and have people summarily dismiss your humanity on a daily basis, not intentionally, but just because.
Absent-minded.
Yeah.
I mean, that's.
It's not that you hated me, right? You didn't anything me. Yeah. You know, like I just wasn't on
worse because when you're invisible. You know, one of the things that that I would say about like being, because we've kind of had the same journey about being at CNN, and I would sit there and I'd be like, oh my God, I'm the only one. And really it made me connect to my faith, because I said, God wants me to be the only one, because he wants me to have this voice. He wants me to have this moment, and he wants me to go to this journey, because if you're with someone else, I can't stretch and grow you the way that I need you to be. And so now as a 58-year-old woman, I never ask God, why am I alone? I never ask why, you know, my son can't find a friend to hang out with, because I was like, God wants you to take this moment and to be better and to be great and to walk in your destiny and open your gifts.
Yeah.
So God wanted you to be here. He wanted you to have a plan. He wants you to feel lonely sometimes so you can connect. You got to be silent to hear that small whisper in your voice, right? To hear where you need to go. So I just wanted to
only though.
And to follow the voice too, because that's how you can pitch what you need to pitch. That's how you 100%. Push. That's how you sharpen your point of view to the point where it's undeniable, where it's like, there's no way you need to deny this.
And
pitch.
they see you, so they can say, oh, you know what, she's so good it's okay to hire one more.
Mhm.
She doesn't have
It
to be
opens
the
a
only
door.
That's
one.
the thing
It
about being
opens
the
a
only, because
door.
you don't want to be the only forever.
No, of
it's
course
like you're the
not.
only to keep the door open. But when you were the only, what was the most egregious thing that you encountered?